Welcome to the Artificial Intelligence Podcast with your host, Dr. Tony Wong. Today, I'm with a special guest. Michelle, can you introduce yourself?
Hi, Tony. I'm Michelle McGuire. I'm a partner in Deloitte Consulting. I'm based in Los Angeles. I'm also the Chief Commercial Officer for Deloitte's AI-enabled product called Converge Consumer.
That's really cool. What was your journey like to the C-suite at Deloitte? What did you learn along the way? What was your education? I'm sure a lot of the viewers would love to get to know you and understand your journey.
Yeah, my journey, I've been in all things IT, engineering, data science for almost 30 years now. It's hard to believe. And of course, back then, when I graduated college, there weren't as many concentrated programs in that. So you learned by doing, right? So you learned hands-on. And my very first job, there was not a computer on the desk, like not one to be found. And it was the time when things were transitioning from snail mail to email, believe it or not. And they were like, hey, you just came from college. You know about this email thing, right? And so next thing I knew, I was a Lotus Notes administrator and I was a DBA. And then I started developing, which was just out of sheer need. It's not that my degree was in it. I was an international business major at Georgia. So it's not like I was hands-on keyboards. I was self-taught because out of just sheer need and being the person with the highest inclination in the office. That's how it started. And then I progressed. I worked at Turner Broadcasting and CNN in Atlanta for a long time in all things, we called it business systems development, which was basically applications that supported the news gathering and the marketing process, and it was a huge organization. It was back when people were still not offshoring anything yet. They hadn't figured out that efficiency. So it was a huge development organization of developers and architects and functional folks, QA, and there were about 500 people. And I was at Turner for a long time in Atlanta. So learned a super deep understanding of all things media and entertainment, as well as the IT systems that support and run it in the background as things were shifting from linear to digital. So it was, again, learning on the job relative to that digital actual switch. And then I went back to school. I went back to Georgia Tech to get my master's. I had been so self-taught that I was like, maybe I should figure out the real theory of this versus the practice. So I have a master's degree in all things computer science, computer engineering from Georgia Tech, which was for me, it was a good marriage of my hands-on skills with the theory of how it's supposed to work. And then I came to Deloitte about 13 years ago now to move from Atlanta to LA to join their media and entertainment practice, which is robust and large, and obviously New York and LA based. So we back then were basically growing and scaling digital solutions for movie studios as they were pretty far down the path of that transition to digital, and have focused in all things product development. Deloitte has a really robust capability around product. And in this case, in the Converge Consumer case, which is the commercial area I run, I used to joke that it was garden variety AI. But now with Gen AI, we want the cool thing now. We've evolved from the standard intelligent applications to ones that are generative. And that's my current focus in the marketplace.
Oh, wow. In your years in the M&E market, what were some trends that you saw really stick? Were there any that come to mind, or do you think that there were just fleeting moments and there's something else that's on the horizon that?
Yeah, at this point, I saw the first bubble of the internet, right? And then the rise of the second, and then the shift to mobile and all things digital. And I think in this moment where everybody is very excited about Gen AI, I remind folks that this is just the evolution of what AI has been for the last 20 years, right? This is the kind of next step in the journey for AI, and it, like everything else, is ephemeral. We will, whether it's 2 or 3 or 5 years, it'll become part of everything we do. And there will be something else around the corner. I do think, to your point around what was something that I saw, I think there's been a lot of hype around things like blockchain. There's been a lot of hype around all things metaverse, right? Like things that kind of saw their peak moment of interest, and then businesses struggled to figure out, what does it mean for my organization, and also the complexities of that technology for people to apply to their everyday life. And I think it's when those things are hard for folks to run to ground with what is the business model? What is the path to adoption? When that happens, when people struggle, that's when things fizzle fast.
Yeah, gotcha. I remember a couple years ago, the big hot stuff was computer vision,
Yep.
and also it was like edge computing. Those two in my industry, I did a lot of work in like manufacturing, retail. That was really big. And then a couple years ago, Gen AI obviously took over, and every computer vision engineer switched over to natural language processing, and then edge computing just dropped off the map. So that was like the trends that I saw, at least in the industries that I worked in. And right now, the biggest, hottest thing that everybody's talking about, regardless of the vertical that you're in, is Gen AI. Are you guys seeing a lot of movement at Deloitte in terms of the conversations with clients and like the trends that you're seeing from your due diligence?
Yeah, we get a lot of asks around, tell me what it means. I have to tell my board what it means and what does it mean for our business? Will our business be disrupted? Everybody wants to know that, of course. And then they pretty quickly go to, hey, I've identified 300 use cases of what I think Gen AI could solve for. Can you come in and help me understand where there is real value associated with spending the money to implement these things? What does it cost? What's the value, the time to deliver, and the impact it'll have are generally the things that they ask us. And I think until clients wrap their heads around all things, the promise of Gen AI, they still struggle with, where do I invest? How and where do I spend money? And is it really going to provide me operational efficiencies, cost savings, headcount reduction, whatever it is that they're seeking? I think they look to us to validate that it's not only going to solve their problem, but that then there's going to be a return on that investment. I think that's any new technology, though, right? You reach out to the folks who have done it before, see it in the marketplace, are tracking the trends. And I think you've seen our study around all things state of Gen AI in the organization, which looks at, you can go out to Deloitte.com and look at how organizations are thinking about this, how Gen AI. And the good news is that a very large percentage, I think it's over 80% of organizations, think there is promise of Gen AI and where they're going to realize those efficiencies and effectiveness. Now the task at hand is, what are the things I need to build or buy? Where do I deploy? And then how do I upskill my teams to leverage the benefit? So is that prompt engineering as a skill or capability? Is that, do I need to grow more data scientists? Do I need to teach more Python? What is it that I need to be doing as an organization to ensure that I'm competitive and I can realize the value?
Yeah, speaking of the upskilling, I know that before the whole Gen AI craze, there was a huge constraint on the supply of like data scientists.
Oh.
In fact, I think at the time they couldn't wait for people to graduate like 4 year with 4 year degrees, and so there was like boot camps that were like either 6 or 12 months. And then now with this huge Gen AI craze, like boot camps are just popping up everywhere. Like
Mm-hmm.
everyone's foregoing going to like traditional 4 years in order to basically get upskilled as quickly as possible so that they can get on this wave. What are you guys doing right now in terms of trying to upskill your own people? This is like a big problem that I'm seeing at like every major firm, PwC, at Cognizant. All the big firms are upskilling their folks.
Yep.
What are you guys doing right now?
So we already had a construct for upskilling our folks called Deloitte Tech Academy. And so in that, we're building the core competencies and skills of our practitioners around, you name it, right? So data engineering, ML ops, data scientists, data analysts, even, right? And growing them from college through to when they make PPMD, which for us is partner principal or managing director. And we've always had a philosophy of, we have to own the journey for our practitioners in order for them to have the most relevant and updated skills. So luckily we had that infrastructure and foundation in place. And then from there, we bolted on to that or integrated into an AI fluency capability. So whether you are a functional resource or a technical resource, we'll give you the background of what is the infrastructure? What are the skills? How do you access all of the tools available to you as a practitioner that you need to serve clients? And then we will, to your point, we'll put people through boot camps. There's self-paced learning, there's in-person, there's a host of ways to learn that are not just, we're going to stick everybody in a room and make them pass the Python test or whatever, right? Luckily, we've had that, but now we've evolved to how do we, now that we have that technology foundation in place, how do we now turn as many people into prompt engineers? How do we give them the skills to be able to query data in a way that enables them to take action on behalf of our clients? So they are using tools, they are upgrading their skills, and really on how you index information, right? It's, hey, how do you ask the tool to give you the information in a way that you can then use to move the needle on behalf of our clients in your everyday project delivery?
Gotcha. And then after you've upskilled your own people, when you're actually doing work for like clients, like what type of projects are you guys usually on? For me, whenever I deal with clients that want to dabble into Gen AI, usually like the first use cases are like HR or sales and marketing. Those are like very repeated use cases and repeated asks that I get from clients. What are you seeing in terms of your clients?
Yeah, I would say the most burning platform we have right now are organizations, marketing organizations inside of broader enterprise who have maybe over relied on their agency historically, where they have given the capability of data aggregation, segmentation, content creation, and generation to them. And it's been happening in a black box in a way that there was not the ability to have data transparency. You were disintermediated from the decision of, hey, the algorithm or the tool is telling me what to do. Your agency owned that. And then there was the actual delivery. So campaign delivery, campaign execution. There's now this belief of, oh, Gen AI is now going to enable me to do that data decision delivery in a way that is, one, it's closer to me in terms of that customer. It's shifting that customer closer to me because I'm no longer disintermediated from the data and the behavioral data about that customer is thing one. But then thing two, it's, if this value chain can now be automated and made generative for traditional marketers, and I can tell it what I want and then have the outcome be more effective in terms of, again, not being disintermediated from that customer by my agency, then I want that because it enables me to build my skills. It reduces the time to market. It enables me to realize benefit and savings of that marketing campaign, that marketing spend. So I think clawing that back from a agency is an area where we see a ton of promise, and also where people are asking us to either come help them upskill their folks or help them build or buy systems and then integrate them into their own environment versus the agency benefiting from the build.
Yeah, speaking of products, are you guys building anything that's really cool that's like that you're like proud of, or is there anything like on the horizon that you can announce that you're building, or like a new release that you can tell our audience?
Yeah, so Deloitte has been investing heavily in the innovation space for years. And I think, and specifically in the product innovation space, where we take our deep subject matter expertise in a industry vertical like consumer, and we then infuse our deep technical capability around all things data, AI, ML to create magic at the intersection. And we do that under the banner called Converge. Converge is the label that we use for all of our businesses where we're building product and assets. And specifically, a great example is Converge Consumer, which is where we have taken our, like I said, our deep understanding of the retail, travel, hospitality, leisure, automotive, consumer, CPG traditionally. And we have leveraged our internal product development team, of which there are about 500 people who are developing products that we then turn around and sell to clients as accelerators, software as a service, or even their ownership of that IP in a way that they feel like is market differentiating for them. And we basically have invested in what I think I told you. We call them intelligent applications because they are traditional software engineering with data, AI, ML infused into them. And those applications then are self-tuning. They are, always on in terms of their capability building. And so we have long, I'd say in the last 5-6 years, been doing that. And now with Gen AI, we've been leveraging the power and the tools to automate more, to drive more into the hands of our customers. And in the case of Converge Consumer, it's really the ability to understand that lead to loyalty value chain of acquiring, attracting, and retaining new customers. And then ultimately turning them into loyal customers because they'll obviously spend more, part with more cash, and you'll garner a larger share of wallet. So it's the ability to know who that is, whether they are anonymous or known to you, right? Your ability to then predict what it is that they are going to want to buy from you. And then the ability to optimize once you know who they are and what they want, the ability to optimize across the 4 Ps. So product, price, place, promotion. And that basically is always on self-tuning and figuring out what are the segments that you can then personalize against. So the ability to then engage with them in a way that is predictive. So the traditional way of manually creating your cohorts or your personas or your segment, we now leverage unsupervised clustering algorithms to determine what are the segments you should be targeting versus the ones you think you should target, with things like propensity affinity, lifetime value scores built into the platform. So that way, instead of it taking a multiple month long process of primary research, we take the data that you have, we augment it with third-party data, and then we basically use that algorithm to tell you who they are, what they care about, what is their channel preference, do they want to buy online or in store, and if so, what is the price they're willing to pay, and what is the promotion you need to put in front of them in order for them to pull the trigger and put that in their cart so as to part with cash faster, ultimately shrinking that lead to loyalty value chain that I mentioned.
Wow, that's very exciting for our clients that are interested in learning more. Like, how would they contact you?
You
Like,
can
what's
always
your
reach out to me on LinkedIn, or you can send me an email at McGuire@Deloitte.com. That's always easy too. But I'm pretty active on LinkedIn. I'm part of multiple communities associated with both industry and with AI. I find it a useful tool to connect with people in sharing where the market is going. So you can always reach me on LinkedIn.
Fantastic? And so I'm curious, like, if I were like a CPG company and I wanted to like dabble into AI, like Gen AI, for instance, just so that imagine like the board of directors comes to me and says, Tony, we're a CPG company. We need to be more competitive in the AI space. What are some like tips and tricks you would recommend to me in order to get started?
Yeah. Our number one trick is you need not as much data as you think to get started. And CPG is a great example of, we worked with a large CPG brand to figure out what was the world and capacity of product that they could create. So out of the white space of products, what are the things you should be doing that have demand in the marketplace? So we took a sample factory, we took all of the ingredients available in that factory, we put in the constraints associated with what that plant had the ability to manufacture, and we used AI to inform basically the products they should ultimately be creating. And while it's spit out tens of thousands of permutations of the products they could ultimately create, we zoned in on a particular ingredient, and that was pickles. And we did a quick test and learn proof of concept, and then put out into the marketplace a series of pickle related of products that you could then figure out what customers, what segments would buy. And it was things like pickle juice hydration. It was a bunch of different pickle flavors, but the one that ultimately was the thing that was of highest demand and had the highest prediction that people would want was pickle cream cheese. So basically, cream cheese mixed with chopped pickles. And they are now in the process of figuring out how to test and put into market the products based on the combination of the segmentation and cohort, as well as the product itself, and what are the locations where pickles and cream cheese will resonate the most.
So if you were to use any other like technique, like you wouldn't have been able to find that result, right?
Yeah, I think there were traditional ways of product ideation, testing with focus groups, configuring plants to be able to do that, right? It's not to say they couldn't do it before. It was just a very long process of hit or miss with probably not a grounded in data segmentation and product ideation that says there is white space for this product. There are people who are interested in this product, because I myself would have never have imagined that pickled cream cheese would be something people would want to eat. But it turns out there are lots of folks who are interested in that. It's not to say that they couldn't do it. What we did was we mined the white space. We shrunk the amount of time from ideation to market test. And we were able to use AI from a product recommendation engine perspective to say, this is something you need to consider out of the white space of all of the options you have in that plant.
That's super cool. That so you've essentially accelerated the product market fit timeline that usually takes a very long time, and a lot of companies a lot of failed companies. What will happen is that their product market fit timeline will be so long that they just run out of cash. Yeah,
Exactly.
so this like framework that you've built allows you to maximize the amount of time and minimize the amount of cash burn. That's super cool.
Or let's take, for example, a Hollywood movie studio. You might have a vault of IP that you've sat on for years, right? And we get a lot of questions around, how do I generate revenue from legacy IP that is net new? So effectively, what is the mashup of the titles, the characters, the worlds that people want to go to the theater to see or tune in on their home device or on their mobile device? Or what are the products I could be generating from that IP that people would find interesting and would engage with? Also, what are the sponsorship opportunities? What are the brands I want to partner with to create net new content shorts, for example, that they could then use to co-brand their products? They're using AI as a tool to identify those net new opportunities for revenue generation in a way that was really hard historically, because people, that's not their job, right? Mining their IP is not their job. Their job is creating net new IP that people go to theaters to see, buy products against, yet they're sitting on this gold mine of legacy content that people still have an interest in, whether it be nostalgia, whether it be net new markets being introduced to legacy brands that maybe just require some localization. AI is going to enable things like local language generation for legacy soap operas, for example, right? Tapping into new markets with content that has just been gathering dust in your vault now can be used to drive net new fans, net new revenue, and net new brand sponsorships that AI can literally just spit out. We recently did that for a movie studio where we took only 92 attributes associated with a film and used it to generate over 3 million net new product ideas that they could then go monetize in an effort to effectively find revenue from their existing IP, right? Since they are a bit constrained by the number of movies they can produce per year. Let's look at how do you optimize what's there and how I could create products that people want in a modern day and age.
Yeah, that's interesting. The concept of taking things that are existing and trying to find like a new market to go into. Because I know that a really famous example is like with the sticky note. They were trying to build an adhesive and it failed and it barely stuck on to things. And they're like, what can we do with this adhesive?
Yeah,
And it's like, why don't we just build like a sticky note? And obviously now everyone in the office uses sticky notes, but yeah,
here's mine,
like that.
literally sitting on my desk. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's like the history of it. So like this is a very exciting time where you can take things that you have already built and then just try to find like the audience of like another audience in order to expand your like TAM, your
Yep.
total addressable market. So that's very exciting to me because a lot of the cool inventions that I've seen in the past that have revolutionized the world, usually they're like mistakes, like Teflon, for instance. What they
Right.
were like they were like mixing things into this vat, and like, there was like a layer that formed at the bottom. They didn't know what that was. And like Teflon was created. Now everybody uses Teflon pans, or Niagara is another very famous like mistake. I'm excited to see the shift from taking these revolutionary products that everyone uses that were originally created because of either a mistake or because of some type of like calculation error that suddenly arose, and being able to repurpose it for a different audience. Now we're switching over to using some type of like intelligent system in order to take your existing portfolio and then intelligently identify like another market to go into. Do you have another example that's like kind of cool that's on top of your head that you can think
I
of
mean,
that?
my movie
Uh,
example is really my coolest. But no, I think to your point, I think this shift from, I'll say, static segmentation to dynamic predictive of who are the people in the future who have interest in this is pervasive across multiple industries, right? Whether it be retail, to your point, is, hey, how do I go find that net new audience for an existing product in a way that historically you were anchored in these legacy, hey, I've got 32 segments that I target. And if you don't fit in it, am I mining the data for those people who are for this new product, for this existing or new product? I think the promise of predictive segmentation capabilities partnered with predictive product generation and then the optimization of what's the price you're willing to pay, the promotion that gets you to part with your cash is really the future, especially around all things e-commerce. So imagine all of those elements that I just mentioned. You now have the ability to dynamically generate a PDP page, so a product description page that takes into consideration in that final second before you land on their webpage that says, hey, Michelle is in the market for this sneaker at this time, willing to pay that price, have that price dynamically generate, and then the promotion, the everything from the discount to the copy to the image is specific to me. It's not this blastogram of promotional material. It's about, I know Michelle is in market. I know she has a high propensity. I know which items she has the highest likelihood to click on. So therefore, I'm going to dynamically create an experience for her when she lands on our .com in a way that historically we had no ability to, right? Those were things that were done in spreadsheets long before Michelle hit the .com. Now, to your point, the intelligent applications are now assembling, taking all of that data, making the real-time decision and recommending the next best action to dynamically generate an experience that is truly a segment of one, which for us in marketing and tech have long been it's been the holy grail, right? The problem was always scale. I had all of those elements, but how did I scale a content engine to be able to create that Michelle specific shopping experience that was the challenge, right? Was like, I needed, what if I had 200 million Michelles? Like, how did I, as a content creator, a marketer, site operations, how did I even create that level of scale? AI, Gen AI, ML operations all enables that for us now. That, to your point, a year ago didn't exist. So it truly is, I think I will say, it's one, it's on the horizon. People are starting to do it today. And two, it's just an exciting time in terms of how these systems are going to change how we as consumers shop, but as organizations, how we serve those customers to make them more loyal.
Yeah, the one thing that you said that resonate with me was whether or not you were ready to buy. So like timing wise, where you like where the customer is ready to purchase something. That resonates with me a lot because a lot of like tech products that I've seen die early because it wasn't the right time for them to release that product. There's some other examples. Imagine it's like Christmas time, like December time, and most people will purchase like Christmas related items. But then if you were to try to sell that in like July, no one's going to buy it because the timing's off. That's easy because it's very repetitive. But in terms of example, it'd be like Google Glasses, like the smart glasses, like they were way ahead of its time before anyone was ready for them to release that type of tech. And I think that's why that died. And now there's like a resurgence of AR, VR due to Apple Vision, which I think that was released exactly on time in relation to the Google Glasses. I think AI will help out a lot of businesses pinpoint the exact time in order to release these products that are timed so that consumers are aligned with the product release.
Yeah, it's the classic don't skate to the puck, skate to where it's going, right? I think AI gives us the ability to predict where is the puck going to be, and let's skate to that place versus where it is today. I think that's the promise of AI and generative AI in general of I'm going to be able to see around that corner so that I can know what to produce when for what cohort.
Yeah. And so what are your like predictions for the future, like for 2024? Like we're in Q1 right now. There's 3 more quarters remaining. I can go first and you can add on or like maybe
Yeah, go.
disagree to what I think
Sure.
is going to happen, or I'll give you little bit more time to think about this. I think this year is going to be the year of commercialization of Gen AI. Last year was all about exploration, building POCs, building MVPs. This year is going to be about deployment into production. We're going to see a lot of the things that were like hobbyist grade from last year move into more mainstream. We're going to see things. We're going to see Gen AI products being integrated into everyday life. For instance, like Microsoft's Copilot button, which is basically a special button that Microsoft is going to be releasing on all of their keyboards that allows you to interact with Microsoft's Copilot chatbot. That's going to change the way that we interact with Gen AI on a consumer level. I also think that a big thing that's going to happen is that the price to use Gen AI is going to drop because of all of the innovation that's coming out. Like a specific example would be Grook. I don't know how to pronounce it. It's GROQ. They have a language processing unit, an LPU, which is basically this like card it's not a GPU, but it's able to do inferencing very fast, 300 tokens per second per user. So that's going to change the game in terms of being able to do inferencing a lot faster. Plus, it's only, and I say only, it's only $20,000, which is a lot cheaper than a lot of other GPUs that are on the market. I think we're also going to see a lot of competition between the GPU vendors like NVIDIA, AMD. NVIDIA announced that they were reducing the release of new GPUs from 2 years down to 1 year. So that means that there's going to be new iterations of GPUs coming out. That's going to be very exciting to see. More competition means that for us, for the end user, the consumers, the price is going to drop.
Yep.
And I also think that there's going to be a lot more accessibility in terms of getting people access to LLM so that they can build cool products. And then obviously the big thing is this year, there's going to be a lot of upskilling. Every corporation out there is going to upskill their people into Gen AI. I spoke with a VP of research at a large university, and he said that at his university, at the school system, they were implementing this thing called AI Plus, where they have an AI expert for every single department moving forward, regardless of the major. So that means that regardless of what you're going to college for, you're going to get touched by AI. And so that will prepare you for the workforce later on when you enter into the workforce, regardless of what industry you're in, you're going to have to play with AI. So
Yep.
I think those are my predictions moving forward for this year. I can't really make a prediction for next year because stuff changes so
It
fast.
seems so far out. I agree.
Yeah, it's virtually impossible for me to predict 2025 because within 6 months, like things could change like 180 degrees, and I wouldn't be able to predict it.
Yeah. To your point, so yes, I agree with you on all points. I think you probably know if I guess about 6, 7 years ago, the way that they trained medical students to become doctors shifted, right? They stopped making them memorize things, they basically shifted to there is so much medical information out there now. We are going to teach you how to index information and problem solve, do root cause analysis versus you just have to remember these symptoms. And so therefore you must have this disease, right? They shifted the things that they taught them in school. And I think that's where we are now with all things university recruiting, et cetera, right? We're going to shift to people having a core understanding of how you prompt large language models to answer questions for you, and then how you hone in on training the output through just your interaction, to your point. So I think that's where we are in university systems. I think we obviously recruit from all the top campuses. I was talking to somebody from Georgia Tech this week, my alma mater, and she was asking me like, hey, where are the areas I should be focused? I was like, just make sure before you leave, you're taking a Python class, that you're prompt engineering capable, and adding that to your broader computer science degree, right? With Java and all the other things, right? She knew. I think that's where we are in terms of out of school. And then we as organizations are going to continue to retool our workforce to be able to better query the systems that exist. So even us inside of Deloitte have a tool called Sidekick that queries all of our internal Deloitte. It's basically a Deloitte LLM, right? And use it to inform how you navigate the firm. It's a big place. We're almost 500,000 people, right? So how do you use it to identify folks? Who are the experts? Who are the people who are in market talking about this? So we are also doing the same and upskilling ourselves. And then in terms of, to your point, for our clients, we see a bit of the commoditization that you talked about, right? Driving down of the prices relative to the usage and the further consolidation of the number of vendors who are offering solutions. So for sure, we see that. And then to your point around consumers are going to come to be able to expect a faster path to whatever their outcome, right? I think we've been joking for a long time about not having to pick up the phone to call a call center to solve your customer service. I think the technology finally is there for us to be able to abandon the IVR systems, and not to say that it goes away completely, but we're now at the point where you're able to, whether it be self-service, chatbot, whatever it is, we're at the point where we're able to shift to investing in those channels a bit more heavily, because we know that they reduce the total cost to serve and the time to get a resolution.
Yeah, I agree with all that stuff. I also think that chatbots are going to be on your commercial websites are going to be very plentiful. It's so easy right now to put a chatbot on your website and increase engagement. And so I think that's definitely going to happen to every single company out there. There's going to be a chatbot on your website. I also think that call centers are going to probably go away for sure, because now you can do all this like self-serve on a website, or you could just talk to like a voice AI bot. And then at the end of it, if you need to have some type of triage or some type of elevated status, it could go to a real human. But I think that all these call centers are going to go away for sure. But speaking of jobs going away, what's your like prediction on like job loss due to AI? I realize that this is a sore topic for a lot of people. Jobs will be displaced due to the technological advancements of platforms like AI, for instance. But there's going to be new jobs that are arising. My prediction is that like jobs that have a very mundane task are going to be have automation come in there and alleviate that mundane task. But I also think that there's going to be new skills that you could acquire at your job in order to shift you over to a different type of role in order to like deliver more value. Like, what's your 2 cents on like job displacement in the Gen AI phase?
Yeah, we've always said to clients that the goal is to align the humans to the high value work, right? So where there are administrative tasks, to your point, grunt work, whatever it is that the AI can then do for you, and now give the humans the ability to focus on the things that are higher touch, white glove, concierge, whether it's serving their consumers or it's even thinking the bigger thoughts relative to new product ideation, for example. That's always been our going in position, that you're able to then focus on the things that are higher value. And yes, AI is absolutely going to streamline administrative capabilities, but was that a good, effective use of human time? Probably not. So how do we then turn and upskill those folks who have deep subject matter expert in your business, Let's now retool them with the skills to be able to interact with the artificial intelligence in a way that makes them more effective, reduces your time to market. Those are ultimately always our going in position with clients, that these are, it just enables you to repurpose their time for higher value activities.
And then for the listeners who are interested in like Gen AI because it's so hot right now, where do you like what type of advice would you give to them in terms of like where they can start? Do you
Yep.
guys have a I don't know, like a Deloitte Academy that you can put them to, or like maybe some courses on like Udemy or Coursera that you can point to? That's off the top of your head.
So we don't have general population courses, but we do have a ton of primary research in each of the industries that are specific to how AI is going to impact your various sectors, subsectors. So you can go out to Deloitte.com and download those. We also, as I said, we've studied pretty extensively the impact Gen AI is going to have. You can go out to Deloitte.com and see the state of Gen AI and the organization research we've done. It's a great white paper. Suggest you download it. I think for the individual who wants to learn more, my advice is just go out and download some tools, right? Whether depending on what you're interested in, you want to do content generation, go play with Midjourney. You want to do content copy creation, go download OpenAPI, ChatGPT, right? Like those tools, if the best way for you to learn the impact that it's going to have on whether it be you personally or the internet more broadly, is to be hands-on and learn what they are capable of so that you know what's coming.
Thanks, Michelle, for being on the show. And until next time, stay curious.